Hi everyone, my name is Inan. I go to Rosemary Hall, which is a boarding school in Connecticut. I'm going to be a rising senior this fall. And like Kenneth just said, the project that I was working on was a Unity game, similarly to Charlie. But like Kenneth also said, our projects are completely different. So let me share my screen. Okay. So here you can see this is the scene view, or sorry, this is the scene view, where you can sort of browse around and see all of the, these little things are called assets, all of the things that you've put into the game. I have some decorative items here, and this whole space is kind of just like the room that I've built as like a demo. It's not necessarily a full-fledged game, even though it has all the components for it. Because game development takes a long time. So the character can move in every direction. She faces to look wherever she's moving. She can jump, and then all of these fellows here also have fully working enemy AI. So if I get within a certain range of them, they start following me, and if I get even closer, they'll attack me. So you can fight them. They have health, and I also have health. And then if I take enough damage, then my character dies. So yeah, there were a lot of challenges. These are just a few of the many scripts that I have. Like you can see, this one is almost 300 lines. And going into this project, I didn't know anything about game development. I had very basic coding experience in a different language. Unity uses C#. I knew JavaScript, so I kind of came into this project completely blank. So even though the game itself is not fully fledged or anything, I think I've learned a lot, and there's a lot of components that you can definitely pick and choose and just sort of rework to make a much bigger game, just if you have the time, which we were sort of limited on time here.
What kind of things did you learn as an engineer from doing this project?
Well, I am interested in computer science, so this was definitely a very solid basis for that. Like I learned how to incorporate, just sort of import everything into Unity, learn how to properly use it, call it in scripts, just like a ton of little stuff that definitely racks up over into a big script like that.
By the way, I gotta say, every time I see a demonstration of your project, it just gets more and more cool. That's this constant improvement. All right. Any questions for Inan?
Did you make the graphics?
No, I wish. If I had more time, I do art sometimes, so I wanted to draw some of the stuff, but then I would have to learn how to import all of that, and I would have to make frame-by-frame animations for it. And I had to spend the first week just learning tutorials for how to use Unity at all. So those are just some free assets that I got from the Unity store, but I understand the concept behind importing assets and stuff, but those aren't mine now.
Was there any inspiration that you had for the game or the art style?
Originally, I wanted to make a game that was a 2D, kind of like an old style arcade game, like a 2D game, but with the illusion of having depth, because in many 2D platformer games, the character can jump, but they only move from left to right. So I wanted them to be able to move on the Z-axis as well. So it would be they would be moving all around, but also be able to jump. That's what I sort of worked on the first week. I didn't get exactly the effect that I was looking for at the beginning, but I switched to a 3D plane, but using the same 2D graphics. So it worked out in the end, but it was a little different from what I imagined.
And with more time, where do you see yourself taking this game in the future?
With more time, definitely the scripts that I used for the enemies and the way that they're controlled, they can definitely be altered pretty easily just by changing a couple lines of code and putting them onto different sprites and to make different enemies with different behaviors. I wanted to, starting out the project, if I had more time, I wanted to make more levels and have an actual nothing too complicated, obviously, because it's an introductory game, but just kind of a basic storyline.
Amazing. So any other questions for Inan?
Just wondering, how does the enemy AI exactly work?
There's a lot of parts to it. I can share my screen and show you just quickly. So let me pull up the controller. So the main, like the big components for it is if you see here, it has different, it calls the animator component for the enemy, which is what controls the animation. And it has certain conditions like said Booleans. Booleans are true or false statements, as well as triggers. Ishan, I'm in a presentation. Sorry, my younger brother. So, they have Booleans and they have different triggers and stuff, which triggers certain pieces of code within the animation. And when it, so for example, it's like this line of code is telling it if the player character is within a certain range and also the enemy isn't in cooldown, then they can attack the player. So it's like a bunch of bits of code like that.
Nice. Yeah, great work.
Thank you.
How big of an adjustment did you have to make going from really any language to C#? Because C# is it's C style, but it's very unique and it's got a lot of quirks to it. So how was that shifting process for you?
It wasn't terrible because I didn't do anything crazy, but I did a couple of just like introductory tutorials before the session started and like using Unity. And there were a lot of like C# is a very unique language, but it also has like many of similar components to JavaScript, like if statements, like Boolean stuff like that. They just use slightly different like terminology. So instead of like variables, they use floats. So it's just stuff like that you had to figure out. Like I had to figure out like step by step. There were so many errors. Like I had to come to office hours like almost every day. It was a lot of work.